Hi, this is Kat Chancellor with Stamp Art Connection and StampArtConnection.com. I have a really fun fancy fold card that's actually a 3D project that once you open up the card, which is about 3.5 by 3 inches, it folds out to this wonderful lantern. All you have to do is kind of fold the pieces in on itself and you can create a lantern. And you can put a votive light inside of it, and you have just something that you can put up on a mantle or on your desk. I've made several of these, and I'm going to walk through the easiest way to put this together. I also have a PDF that's available on my blog with all the dimensions and details. I'll briefly go over them, but all the details are on my PDF. We will be using the Bewitching bundle, which includes the stamp set and the punch, and the Scary Sweet bundle, which includes these dies that we will be using to create our lantern. We're going to be, you'll need basic black cardstock as well as vellum, and some basic white cardstock as well for stamping the different embellishments. You will also be needing some ribbon, gingham ribbon, and the metallic mesh ribbon. Okay, so let's get started. Begin by cutting 2 pieces using basic black cardstock, 3.5 by 9.5. These will basically be our panels 1 and 2. We'll then score at 1/4, 3.25, 6.25, 9.25, and then we will crease with the bone folder. One of the 1/4 inch pieces will eventually be cut off when we're assembling the card. I'm just going to trim off the extra pieces so that my final panel will measure 9.5 inches. I'm then going to get some adhesive sheet, and we are going to take the adhesive sheet, and this is going to measure about 9 and 3.25. We're going to cut 2 pieces to go on the back of our basic black panels. And we're also going to cut a piece of vellum, and the vellum is going to be 3 inches by 9 inches. We're going to score that at 3 and 6 inches. We're going to lay out our 2 panels, and we're going to adhere our adhesive sheets to these panels, which will now be the inside of our panels that we're going to use to sandwich our vellum to create our lantern. Now that we have adhered our adhesive sheet, we're going to take our dies, and I'm going to use the my mini stamp, emboss, and die machine to cut the frames, the framelets, and I'm going to cut these first. I'm just going to run them through, and I'm folding over the panels so that I basically cut 2 at once. And once I've taken out that excess, and you see that off to the right, I'm going to save that because we're going to need it for our project. So I then fold over the second piece, and I'm going to run this through, and I'm kind of folding it over because I'm using the first die cut as a template for my second fold. And you have to be careful when you're kind of using either tear tape or some adhesive post-it notes. Just carefully kind of pull it off, but save all those other extra scraps. So there's our framelit. You can see on it is, and that's going to be kind of the inside of our card. Now I'm switching over to my larger die cut machine because this has a little bit more power, and I'm going to cut the tree dies, and I'm kind of laying my frame over my cardstock so I can kind of get a positioning. I'm folding over two of the panels and I'm running it through, and if you notice I kind of have it at a diagonal, and that's because since this is more of a detailed die, I want to make sure that I get all the as much of the power of my die cut machine as I can. So it didn't totally cut through on that second piece, but I just lay over my die, fold over my third panel, and position it in a diagonal fashion, and then run it through my die cut machine. So now I'm taking off, and you can see where I have two panels. The last panel hasn't totally cut through, but you can see that I have a good impression there, and that's what I'm going to use to make my final pass through my die cut machine. I'm also ensuring that I remove any of the extra pieces of residual paper that's in my dies, because I want to make sure that I get a solid and complete cut on those dies. So there is the front of my lantern, the front panels of my lantern. I'm folding very gently all the creases. I have 2 1/4-inch end pieces. You can see how it kind of matches up. I'm now going to lay my vellum in the middle, and I'm going to trim my vellum just to make sure that it falls within the adhesive sheet as I've laid it out on my panels. I'm going to remove the adhesive sheet from my panels. I'm going to use the creased folds from my bone folder to kind of align with the folds on my panels, and my bone folder is going to kind of burnish all the burnish my adhesive. And then I'm going to again fold and remove the adhesive sheet from the back of my panel. I'm just kind of removing an extra piece there on the edge, and I'm going to kind of line that up and then burnish. Now in this case I had a little bit of extra adhesive that kind of was sticking out. It wasn't completely covered by my framelit, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut some pieces. You can see I'm using some of the leftover pieces from the panels. I'm just going to kind of put them there along the bottom to make sure that they cover that adhesive that did not get covered, so that it does not stick when I fold my panels, when I accordion fold my panels for the inside of my card. And I'm just kind of adding it to the bottom of each one of my framed pieces. That little piece that's kind of sticking out, I did the same technique with that as well, because I wasn't very careful when I pulled my post-it note. Now I'm going to burnish, and I'm going to make sure that all my crease and fold marks are well creased using my bone folder. And I have my you can see my end pieces have the 1/4-inch end pieces that I'm going to be using. Now I'm going to cut all my elements, my haunted elements, and I'm using the dies from my Scary Cute bundle. But I can very easily use one of the scraps that came out of my framelit die cut that has the adhesive sheet already on the back, and I can very easily fit the cat, the haunted house, and the bats to this piece of cardstock, run it through, and it already has adhesive on the back, so it'll be a very easy to apply on my vellum as I put together the front of my lantern. So after I've run those through my mini die cut machine, I'm just going to pop them out, and I am going to ensure that I get all the little pieces and parts. There's lots of little pieces that have to be popped out. I'm using my X-Acto knife, and then I'm going to lay out the front of my lantern panel, and then I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to adhere those pieces directly to the front on the vellum, and they're going to adhere nicely because they already have the adhesive sheet on them. I'm just going to go ahead, adhere. I have the cat, the house, and the bat, and then I'm going to flip over these panels, and again I'm going to use my bone folder to burnish those pieces. And by burnishing those pieces, you'll also be able to see the images on the inside of your lantern when you open up your card. So that is also an important part of the and as you can see, I'm using the piercing mat as well to ensure that I have a good burnished piece. Now we're going to build our base card, and this is 3.5 by 6 inches, and it's a little bit over on this case, but I was just trying to make sure that I had enough card to ensure that the accordion pieces folded neatly inside of it. You don't have to, it could still be a 3.5 by 6 inches. I am going to adhere my lantern to the inside of my card, and I'm going to use some tear tape. But before I do that, I want to go ahead and cut the basic white piece that's 3 3/8 inches by 2 7/8 inches. That's going to go on the inside of my card, and that is cut at a dimension that will hide the seam once I adhere my lantern. I'm then going to go ahead and stamp this first before I adhere it to my card. I'm using my Stamparatus, and I have my Stamparatus plate. I have my sentiment and my image on one side of my plate, and this ensures that I get a nice well dark stamped image. And then I'm going to put in another piece of cardstock. I'm going to flip my plate around, and I'm going to then cut my witch's hats and my boots using Memento black ink. Again, this is I highly recommend the Stamparatus. You always get a perfect image when I use this using any kind of black ink. So I get a solid black image. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and take those out, and we're going to begin with cutting out and coloring our pieces. I'm using the punch that came with the bundle to punch out my hats. I'm making several hats because I'm making several lanterns, and I'm also going to color my boots, but I'm going to go ahead and fussy cut them. All the colors for my markers are on my PDF. Here I'm using Pumpkin Pie Light and Dark Stamping Blend marker to color my witch's hat, and ensure that I have some nice shading for the spider's web. And then I'm using I believe it's Rich Razzleberry for the hat band. Again, that's the light, using the dark to give it a little bit of dimension, and blending with the light. I've then gone into my stash, and I found some stars that are retired from an older catalog but work perfectly for my hat band. I'm just going to put some black stars across the band to give it a little bit of bling. And then for my inside for my card, I'm using my gray granite ink, and I'm going to stamp my bats. So there's a little bit of contrast between the Memento Black with the gray granite. Now I'm going to go ahead and fussy cut my witch's boots because I'm going to have them dangling on the outside of my card under my my placard that I will be cutting soon. Now we're going to cut our front placard out of Daffodil Delight. You could also use pumpkin pie. And then I'm going to stamp my sentiment using my Memento Black ink, Halloween Happiness. That's going to go on the front of our card. So I have all my pieces and parts that are going to make up our card. So now I can go ahead and I'm trimming off that one piece, and if you get my PDF, this will be the extra piece that the extra 1/4 piece that I need to trim, because we're going to use the 1/4 piece to adhere, and here I'm just using some extra multi-purpose glue because we're going to adhere it to the inside of our card. And you can see that I'm adhering the inside framelets. I'm also trimming the outside 1/4 piece as well. If there's some extra vellum that's sticking out, I'm going to go ahead and trim that as well. And that is going to create our total lantern and our basic card. So now I'm going to adhere the inside whisper white piece that we've stamped with the sentiment. I'm using tear tape, and it is cut at a dimension so that you can see that I'm going to hide the seam, so you don't even see the seam of the lantern. And that is going to fold out easily. So now I'm going to embellish the inside part of my card, and I'm using kind of a zigzaggy scissor motion to kind of create a little bit of fraying on the edge of my metallic mesh. I'm using the basic black dimensionals, since everything is on black cardstock, to adhere my witch's hat. And once I adhere my witch's hat, that is going to lock down and secure my my mesh ribbon. So that is the inside of my card done. Now we're going to do the outside front of my 3.5 by 6-inch card. I'm using some tear tape, and I'm cutting my ribbon about 16 to 18 inches long. This is my gingham ribbon. I'm taking the middle piece and I'm aligning that to the center of my crease. And here I'm adhering the top of my boots to my placard. And this is where I make a mistake. So I'm adhering some basic black dimensionals, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to adhere these directly to the top of the front of my card with my gingham ribbon exposed. But I don't want to do that, and I'll show you why. So I'm taking off all my dimensional, the adhesives from the back of my dimensionals, and I'm going to apply that. And then I catch my mistake. So I'm going to have to very carefully tear that off, and there's going to be a little bit of damage, as you can see once I tear that off. But this is going to be covered by taking one of the framelets that I cut out previously using the adhesive, and here I'm using a multi-purpose glue, but in this case you won't have to. Just strip off the framelit adhesive on the back, ensure that, and here I'm just adhering my front piece, and then I'm going to glue that, and the adhesion from the back of that framelit piece, that extra piece, is going to ensure that the ribbon is fully secured on the front of your card. So there is the inside of our lantern. This is how you can accordion fold it, and then you fold it out and you can create a nice square lantern that you can put an LED votive light inside. I'm using the gingham ribbon as well as the Scary Cute and the Bewitched bundle. Here is how you need to fold the inside. Let me show you. You basically fold over your stamp piece, and then you accordion fold and tie it with your gingham ribbon, and it creates a very nice little card that you can send. Once again, just showing you how it looks when you open up the inside of your card and lantern. That's what it looks like when you fold it up and tie it with the gingham ribbon, and then you can just simply open it up and create a square lantern shape. Using the Scary Cute bundle as well as the Bewitched bundle. So there you go. Thank you so much for joining me for this 3D lantern project. Please like and share. All products are available in my online store. Go to my blog for the project details and the PDF that has all the dimensions and hints and shortcuts for this project. Visit my favorite products for links to purchase such things as my magnetic sheet that I hold all my framelits on. I would be happy to be your demonstrator or join as a hobbyist. For a 20% discount now during celebrations, you get my personal attention. Thank you so much for joining me. If you can't purchase any of my products because you are a hobbyist, I ask you to please like and share and bump me in the analytics.